The first Fast and Furious sucks. I have no idea how they started this giant international highest grossing film franchise ever, except for Marvel, based on this really weird, corny, early 2000s film. I am shocked how good the acting is. Vin Diesel is genuinely compelling only in this movie. Paul Walker, I haven't seen his stuff outside of the Fast series. I'm sure he's great. But Vin, I have. I've seen Iron Giant, though it's a voice role. He does really good in that. Groot is very simplistic, but he's still very good. I've seen Bloodshot. It's horrible. I've seen a scene from Last Witch Hunter. It's horrible. I've seen Triple X. It's horrible. Like, I don't understand. Either he has the worst role selection ever, or he just genuinely stopped caring. I don't think that's the case, though, because he has such a heavy hand in this Fast and Furious series. If you look at Dominic Toretto in Fast 1, when there's an issue, and he's getting angry about it, this is the scene you get.
Is that what you are?
No, man.
Don't come around here again.
Hey, man, you know this is bullshit.
You work for Harry, right?
Yeah, I just started.
You were just fired.
Now, let's fast forward to, say, the latest one in Fast X, when Dante is intimidating him, and this is his response.
At least you know how hard I've been working to get us to this point.
Now I know you're a dead man. You got no honor. Without honor, you got no family.
That's supposed to be the same character. Now, I get it, 20 years would change a man, sure, but he's been acting that way since Fast 4. So, like, how much leeway do we want to give the guy? I mean, like, he's only good in the first one. Sticking with things I like, the car races in Fast 1 are actually really fun, which would be weird if they weren't. That's the point of the film. It's just a collection of car races strung together with a weird plot. This is something that does not stay the same in the series. We go to one movie later, I know I'm skipping ahead, but one movie later, Too Fast, Too Furious, the car races are the worst. They're stupid. They're full of these weird morph transitions where it looks like you're on LSD. It's just dumb. It doesn't work. But in Fast 1, it actually does. The story of Fast and Furious is that Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, is infiltrating these street gang racing team people like Dominic Toretto for the sake of trying to figure out if there are crimes happening, even though street racing is a crime. So, lo and behold, there are crimes happening. There's something called Race Wars, which Dominic Toretto invented, which is revealed later. But Dominic mainly makes his money doing weird street heists. Now, this is really funny to contextualize because the first Fast and Furious is a street racing film that sometimes features a heist, whereas Fast 5 and beyond, they are heist films that sometimes feature a street race. I love the inversion. It's so interesting because, boy, was the street racing formula not working. The first 4 are street racing films. 4 is kind of in the middle. 4 is kind of nobody's favorite. I really find it insanely boring. I can barely remember anything about it. Prior to Fast 5, the Fast saga, these 4 films are these weird, disjointed, mishmashed stories that don't really have anything to do with each other. The first Fast is the premise. It's Brian and Dom coming together. They're not friends. They're pretending to be friends, and there's a falling out, and there's a whole thing. As the movie goes on, he gets ingrained in the culture and the lifestyle. He even allegedly falls in love with Mia Toretto. That's a whole thing. I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, when it's revealed that he's a cop in actually a really cool and creative way.
If we don't get him to an ambulance in 10 minutes, he's dead. Hold this. Hold the pressure just like that. Don't let go. Hold his arm up.
Vince!
Yeah, this is Officer Brian O'Connor. I'm off duty MAPD. I need a life flight rollout right away.
After that point, you'd figure that there's some scene towards the third act where he redeems himself. There isn't. There isn't a resolution for a lot of their conflict. Let me explain what I mean. The ending of Fast 1 is basically Brian versus Dom in the form of a street race, which is off the books, nobody's paying attention, but it's just them for the sake of doing it. I think one's trying to chase the other. It doesn't really matter. The point is they're men that settle their differences via a street race. Basically, it ends with Brian O'Connor giving his car to Dom, which is something referenced earlier that he owed him, a 10-second car, something along those lines. This gets vaguely mentioned many, many movies later, several times. And he basically just walks off. Now, why is that a terrible ending to a bad movie? Well, let me explain. You see, Brian O'Connor had this subplot where he met and fell in love with Mia Toretto. Mia Toretto is Dom's sister, last name. So there's obviously a lot of irony there. It's weird to explain, but they both like each other. She kind of falls for him. They sleep together, and then he wakes up and does his job or something, and then it's revealed that he's actually infiltrating, and she's pissed at him. And that never comes back. There's just the end street race with Dom, and that's it. And they just do not address him and Mia's relationship from that point forward. And to me, it's like, okay, the guys who made this movie did not anticipate a giant franchise, at least not on the scale that it is. So it's weird that you would just end that subplot and not like offer any resolution to it. I'm not saying that they have to get together or anything, but like some type of scene where he at least acknowledges what he did or something, or she confronts him about it, some tangible end to the character story, the arcs that were going on, and they just don't. They just drop it and leave it alone. The Fast and the Furious, 2 out of 10. Now you'd figure, okay, maybe in a sequel they'll address it. Too Fast, Too Furious comes along. Mia's not in it. Dom's not in it. The main character isn't in it. Just Paul Walker, just Brian O'Connor. He's in it. I guess he's the main character of the first one, really. But he comes back, a whole new supporting cast, Eva Mendes, Ludacris, Tyrese. This is the worst film in the series. I have now seen all 10, 11, Hobbs and Shaw, and this is still the worst of the series. Too Fast, Too Furious is one of the most boring, forgettable, annoying films. It's not the most forgettable of the series, part 4 is, but man, John Singleton, the director, he created Boys in the Hood, one of the greatest, most poignant, most incredible to watch films of the past 30 years, I think. Yeah, I got my math right on that. And he also created this hunk of shit. I have no explanation for why they took the franchise in such a weird, no pun intended, swerve to the side to just not address any of the plot points from Fast 1 that were left dangling, mainly the Mia thing. But also, I don't know why they thought they could make a good film follow-up to this series with half your lead. But even on its own, it can be a good film without including the entire cast. I mean, you can still make a good film around Brian O'Connor, and they didn't. They made like a weird cringe fest with all of these really dumb scenes. Their attempts at comedy are just painful. Ludacris has a really big afro. He never has it again in the rest of the series. There are a lot of really weird creative decisions that they do in this film, and I was so checked out. Not even Tyrese Gibson is very good in this movie, and he's good in kind of the rest of the series. We'll get there, but like this might be a writing thing, but again, the attempts at comedy are just, they don't hit. It's very bland and very boring. The visual style is frenetic. The editing is fast-paced and insane. It's even crazier and higher octane than the first one. But if the story's not good and the characters are dumb, then why should I give a shit? It was about halfway through this film that I was debating, should I even continue this series? But then I remembered that Tokyo Drift was next. So, naturally. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Too Fast because it's horrible. Too Fast, Too Furious, 0 out of 10. There's nothing here. There's nothing redeemable. I don't like any of the characters. I don't like any of the acting. Yeah, Brian O'Connor, Paul Walker's trying, but like, it's just a bad everything.
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
This film features even less returning cast. There's nobody until the very, very end. This is an original story that has absolutely nothing to do with the entire series. It's about a guy who loves driving so much that his dad's like, bro, don't drive. You can't be driving, man. You're going to cause damage. And he's like, okay. So then he goes to school, and his bully, who's dating the girl that likes him, because that's how every single film starts, is like, we should drive your crap car. And he's like, my car is better than your car. He's like, go shove my car up your ass or something. Oh, fucking. They street race. Ball with the Ball by Kid Rock plays. And that was such an event. There was so much explosions or whatever happening that naturally he needs to go to Tokyo and not drive ever again. Now he goes to Tokyo, immediately gets ingrained into car culture, starts driving immediately, sucks at drifting, learns to drift through the power of friendship and Han, and then drifts so hard that he wins the race and saves the day. The best part about this movie, and I kid you not, it's not even Han, which I love Han, we'll get to him later, the soundtrack. I have almost the entire soundtrack on my phone. I listen to it all the time on my way to work. It's such a great soundtrack. Specifically the incorporations of the soundtrack, except for Ba With Da Ba, which is a cringe song. Everything else is just awesome. Round Round is heat. It's like the only film in the series that's actually about the cars. Everything else after this point becomes these weird, crazy heist movies, except 4. We'll talk about 4 in a minute. Lucas Black is doing okay, but I'm not really a fan of his weird accent. Bow Wow is just He's trying. He's doing his thing, but like you can tell that he's not really an actor. He's just kind of there. It is so cool seeing a young Jason Tobin in this because Warrior is such a huge show for me. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and he's obviously a big part of that show. And this character comes back later in the series like one time ever for a glorified cameo, but I'm so glad that he's part of the series. It's really annoying to watch Tokyo Drift after all of these movies are now out, knowing that Lucas Black, while he cameos here and there in Fast 7 or whatever, he's not part of the crew. I'll expand more on that later, but after 6, he should be one of the mains. Anyway, the most significant part of the movie is the fact that Han died, and that is not only the entire plot of Furious 7, but, I mean, shit, it doesn't take like more than a film for that to get undone in the timeline context. The cameo at the end from Vin Diesel is fun, but it just makes you wonder, why wasn't he in the past 2 films? I kind of miss the smaller scale films where just the fact that DK can drift up that weird thing with like inches between the concrete, that's like the coolest thing ever. That's equally as cool as driving a car through 3 buildings in its own special way. And I feel like we don't really see that anymore. Instead, it's all just ridiculous. Like, oh, instead of someone being so talented that they can actually drift that way, it's now Dom needs to drive into a crane to swing the crane to hit the bomb out of the water. Whatever. We'll get there. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, 3 out of 10. It's not great. It's probably better than the other 2, but not by much. Fast and Furious. This is the most forgettable of the entire saga. Now, I know I said that kind of about 2, but it's really this one. Like, this one, I feel like all this movie is an extended prologue to Fast 5, where Justin Lin actually gets to do what would be really cool with the series, which is turning it into the heist thing. Fast and Furious 4 is more of the middle child of the series, because while the first 3 are mainly about drifting and racing, and 5 and onward are about the heists, Fast 4 isn't the transitional film yet. That's halfway through Fast 5. We'll talk about that. It's so much ingrained into Fast 1 because it's a direct sequel because it reunites the original cast. It's trying to be of 2 worlds. Now, there's no big heist in this movie, but there are a lot of weird government agent espionage stunts and shit. The only redeeming quality is the fact that we finally, after all these weird spin-offs, get some follow-up on Mia and Brian's relationship. She finally confronts him, a much-deserved 3-movie-long wait of her confronting him about the fact that he completely screwed her over, led her on, played with her emotions, and bailed. And apparently him giving Vin Diesel a 10-second car makes up for the fact that he banged his sister? That doesn't make any sense. So, yes, she calls him out, just like she should. And Brian O'Connor just sits there and fucking takes it because he should, because he was a piece of shit in that movie. The character, the actor's great. And the redeeming quality of this movie, the reason that I think it's not horrible and there's noteworthiness to it at all, is the fact that that gets followed up on and paid off in a satisfying way. And yes, they end up together, but only when they both resolve the dangling plot lines from Fast 1. That was really powerful for me. That's the first time that Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, looks at Brian O'Connor and is like, okay, all right, I feel you now. Now we're kind of on the same page. Now we're kind of working together. We're still kind of like one-upping each other, but we're more buddy-buddy about it. And that, you could even argue, forges the firmly. Which, we'll get to that. We got to talk about Fast 5. Let me just wrap this up. For Fast Furious 4, whatever you want to call it, Fast and Furious, is probably a 4 out of 10. No pun intended, because it's the 4th one. But like, it's just barely below mid. I really wish it were better. Here we go. This is a big deal. The first half of this movie takes place real time after Fast 4. Fast 4 is like a prologue. It's a direct lead into Fast 5. The first half is more boring than the second half. It's more, oh, there's a evil drug dealer named Hernan Reyes or whatever, whose name I know because I just watched Fast X. This evil drug dealer controls all of Rio de Janeiro. He has all the cops in his pocket. He's ruling everything, and there's a problem, and he comes into conflict with Dom's family. Now, let's talk about that word family for a minute here, because this is the big meme of the series, is that all Dominic Toretto does is just talk about family, and he's here to save his family. Here's the thing. Mia Toretto, Brian O'Connor, their kid together. They have a kid in the series. Jacob Toretto was John Cena, who shows up only in like the 9th one and then the 10th. Those people are actually family to Dominic Toretto. That's kind of where the list ends. And let me just talk about Jacob Toretto. I'm going to skip ahead to 9 really quick because it's relevant directly to why he uses the word family. Jacob Toretto is the blood brother, direct descendant of Dom's dad, brother of Dominic Toretto. And he is never mentioned or addressed in any way in the first 8.5 Hobbs and Shaw films of the series. He shows up in 9, all of a sudden I have a brother. You're literally calling all these fucking people family. You literally have a brother who's alive and well, who you know is alive and well, who you kicked out via street race, because that's how men settle debates in this series. And you're not even going to mention that he exists? What? So let's get... This is my point. This ties directly back into Fast 5. Halfway through Fast 5 is when he assembles the team. Now, this is really fun, but much like a lot of Fast stunts, it's fun but makes no fucking sense. So, assembling the team encounters, okay, we're going to assemble all of the protagonists from the previous series except the main guy from Tokyo Drift because 4, 5, and 6 are prequels to 3. So the series actually goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3, 7, and onward, which is insane. But okay, there's a prequel trilogy in there with 4, 5, and 6. That's reverse Star Wars. So here's the thing. They assemble the protagonists from the previous films. We got Roman Pierce, Tyrese Gibson, Tej Parker, Luda. We have Brian O'Connor. We got Dominic Toretto, Mia, who shows up sometimes, Letty, who died but fake died, but we'll get there. That's a whole other topic. I'm sure I'm missing one or two. No, I'm not. Han, that's it, because he blew up, but not really. So that's the team. That's the crew to pull off the Rio heist. Okay. The entire third act of Fast 5 is so fun because of this, because we, as the viewer of the series, have spent so much time with all of those characters, not all, but a lot of those characters, that we're at least invested in like half of them. So when they all show up together and start bouncing off each other with the camaraderie, when they have that race for the extra $1 million and all those cop cars, that's fun. That's genuinely like a payoff moment for the series. Like they actually genuinely did a really good job trying to bridge that gap. My issue comes at the end of the Rio heist, because I have no notes on the safe heist. The safe heist is just gold. My issue comes with the fact that Dom just flagrantly throws the word family around. There's that scene in Fast 5 where he first refers to his crew as family. He just fucking met half the people in that room. He just met Tej Parker. He just met Roman Pierce. Like, these are people that Brian O'Connor knew because he interacted with them via Too Fast, Too Furious, Too Fast. Dominic Toretto doesn't know who the fuck these people are, and he's more willing to call these random two losers family than Jacob Toretto, who's been his brother, who he banished via street race? Let alone the fact that it only takes one film for Jacob Toretto to be family again, because after Fast 9, Fast X, he shows up and saves his kid for him. So, no matter how you slice it, it's really stupid. The character of Dominic Toretto is, at best, inconsistent with the whole point of the series, which is the family. So, whenever I hear Dominic Toretto in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 saying, "This is my family, you can't take about my family, family. Like, he literally just met those people in Fast 5. He did not know they would be family. He should not have been referring to them as such. So let's get to Letty, because that's a bigger deal. That's also actually family, because they're dating and then married, and that's a whole thing. So Letty, in Part 4, dies. That is the motivating factor to reunite the original cast before we get into Fast 5. That's just worth mentioning as like a footnote to lead into Fast 5, because in Fast 5, she's obviously not in it. But in the post-credits scene, Eva Mendes shows up, and I'm like, oh shit, we're getting more supporting cast coming back. She never shows up again in the whole series. So she gives Luke Hobbs, which I haven't even... We'll get to Luke Hobbs. He's his own subject. She shows Luke Hobbs a photo taken a week ago in Berlin. It's Letty. So here comes Fast 6. Fast 5, by the way, as we wrap this up, I would give this a 7 out of 10. It is decent. It is... Oh, it's almost my favorite in the series. It's just the first half is just not it. Before the crew is assembled, it's just another schlock movie. The fact that they assembled that crew and rode that franchise out, that's the right direction to take the franchise, because that crew, their camaraderie with each other, the way they interact, that's that's what sells your tickets. That's what gets you $1 billion. That and the fact that Paul Walker died. So here we are at Fast 6. Owen Shaw, who is the villain, because now the villains matter, right? Fast 5, the villain was the drug dealer with all of Rio in his pocket. Fast 6, the villain is Owen Shaw. This is important because he has a crew. And his crew, as Tyrese Gibson points out, are the mirror opposites of Dom's crew. It's like, oh, this is me, this is that, this is the white me, whatever. Like, it's mildly funny dialogue. But here's the thing. That's deliberate because Owen Shaw is the reverse. They're not family. They're just here for the job. And if one of them gets left behind and dies, no skin off my back. I'll just replace him. Not important. So he's mainly meant to just show this alternate side and be like, okay, this is the difference between a hero and a villain because the hero cares about family even though he just fucking met him, and the villain is so evil because he replaces an employee when they don't work anymore? What? Like, there was a point where Letty turns to Owen Shaw and is like, oh yeah, well, he died and then you don't care, right? And then Owen Shaw is like, yeah, but I'm the boss and it doesn't matter at all. Who cares? I'm not his dad. I don't give a shit. And then Letty's like, well, what about when we die? Is that the eulogy you're going to give? Are you going to care about us when we die? I work a day job because this channel barely has over 1,200 subscribers. And if I died, I mean, they would get a new guy who does my job. I mean, I'm sure my boss would be like, oh, shit, Jake died? Well, he'd probably like freak out for like a day. The same way that if I learned that Leonardo DiCaprio died, I'd probably freak out and be like, oh, shit, I fucking love that guy. That sucks, man. But I don't know him. I'm not mourning. I'm not spending 3 days just crying my eyes out because DiCaprio died. I mean, he's talented enough where I should, but like regardless, my boss would feel the same way about me, and Owen Shaw would feel the same way about his crew. This is all relevant because why the fuck would Dom ever care, except for like Letty, obviously. Why should he ever care if Roman Pierce explodes? Again, they're throwing the family word out just so liberally, just willy-nilly to anybody. Just, yeah, your family. Your family. Oh, my actual brother, Jacob Toretto? Nah, get out of here. I beat you via street race. Leave for life. Like, there's so much about this series that, like, when you contextualize it, when you watch them all in order, it's like, oh, retcon, 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 retcon. Speaking of retcons, the Letty thing, directly what we're talking about. So Letty's back in Fast 6. She's working for Owen's crew because she has no memory, which is just the most annoying writing device ever. But okay, fine. You want to bring her back into the series, there are dumber ways to do it, I guess, but you picked one of the dumbest. So she has no memory. So she relearns that she's loving Dom or whatever, and she comes back into it because Dom is just such a stud with his charismatic tone where he never, his voice never leaves this octave ever in his life. It's always just at this point, it's just like, Letty, you got this scar.
This scar. You got that the first night we met.
Oh, you got this scar, and I got one to match.
That's the last time we were together. I even got the scar to match.
Did you like deliberately give yourself a scar to match her scar? Or was it the same event that hit both of your pelvises on the exact same side? No matter how you think about it, it's so stupid. To comment Fast 6 quite a bit, it does lay important groundwork without feeling like groundwork. So Fast 1 laid groundwork, and it felt like groundwork because it didn't resolve anything. Fast 6, I think Deckard Shaw is a much better villain than Owen Shaw. Owen Shaw, sorry, Dracula Untold. I mean, you're fine, but like, the characterization of your big bad brother is way better. So we get into the third act. Now, Luke Hobbs is there, who I have not touched on at all. I think The Rock is an excellent addition to the series. Him in Fast 5 propels Fast 5 to a 7 instead of a 6. And he's such a welcome presence in Fast 6 as well. You get to see more of him. You get to see him shine. The fact that him and Dom are like, because they're enemies in the first one, and they're kind of not so enemies by the end of the first one, which is, the first one is Fast 5. Whereas now with Fast 6, they're just straight up frenemies. Like, they know what's up. They got each other's number. If they got a situation, they can give each other a call. I think that's pretty funny. That's pretty cool. So circumstances have put them on the same side, as it were. And that's called a character arc, and that's called world building, and I appreciate that. It's about goddamn fucking time the Fast series did that. It's why the Fast series, in my opinion, I think peaked with 5, 6, and 7. And of those 3, I think 6 is my favorite of the series. I've talked a lot about what I like about 6. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I don't. The third act, this airport runway, apparently is like 50 miles long. The whole point of the third act is that if the bad guy gets away on the plane, the movie's over, he wins, he's going to blow everything up or whatever. So they have to stop the plane from taking off before he flies away. And the third act, you can time it as like almost a 20-minute third act, and that plane is just chugging along. Just chugging. Big chillin'. It never turns. It's just going straight. And it's really stupid, even for Fast. Like, at least Fast, like, takes craziness and puts it in the mundane to make you go, wow, holy shit, this is like Bollywood-level craziness. But that is just lazy and stupid. Not that anybody ever cared, because movie series still makes shitloads of money doing that. So they take the plane down with like 2 harpoon guns or something very uneventful and boring. Like, of all the ways the Fast series could take down this fucking plane, they just shoot. Yeah! Oh, got it. Oh, plane's coming down. So it really is that dumb. It's just stretched out. Giselle dies. This is something else. The Fast series, I'm pretty sure every major character that's died either has or is slated to come back to life. So let's go through them. The first one, obviously big one, is Han, right? He died, and he didn't stay dead because those 4, 5, and 6 movies are flashbacks, right? So he only stayed dead for 7 and 8. 9, he's back. 10, he's back. Big back with the crew, baby. Let's go. So Han is undone. Letty, she took a movie off, most of the movie, because she died in Fast 4. Then Fast 5, the post-credits, she's back. So it barely took a film for her to come back. And then 6 is the whole point. Now we are at Fast X, and there are spoilers out online right now. It's not on digital, so who cares? Giselle's in the post-credits scene. So that's... Here we are, right? They're all coming back. It's almost as if the writers, when writing each of these movies, want stakes or tension to some extent. And to do that, sometimes they kill a character, but then realize, oh, wait, that actor who played them is super popular and would probably get butts in seats, so let's get them back, right? And they just write in, with Letty, it was memory loss. Oh, I blew up and my memory went away. With Han, it's, oh, not only did Deckard Shaw cause that on purpose, which was not the implication of Tokyo Drift, but also Mr. Nobody orchestrated this event and kept Han dead on purpose to protect a girl whose DNA could end the world. I'm going to mention this real quick. Another prominent character who has died and has not come back yet is Elena. This is the woman in Fast 5 that Dom, thinking Letty is actually dead because obviously, hooked up with and ended up having a kid with down the line. Now, she got promptly executed in 8 of the Furious. We haven't even touched 8. We're still on 6. She got executed directly in front of him, but I think the filmmakers knew that the Fast and Furious franchise is going to do exactly what it always does, so they just did not show her getting shot.
No!
They just do not show any blood. They don't show shit. So it's very much, okay, if you have to write in a retcon, here's your window. Here's your door to do so. Yeah, I believe she's dead for the next 3 or 4 movies max, and then we'll just switch her right back. So yeah, she's going to be the next villain of 11 or 12, whatever. We'll find out. So anyway, more importantly, Fast X, they're just like, oh yeah, here's her sister. Because, oh yeah, prominent character's brother or sister is now here, even though they were never mentioned prior. That's like a whole thing in this series. That just keeps happening all the time. Please stop. So back to Fast 6, which I would give a 7 out of 10, but I like it better than 5. I love... That's a strong word. I really like this movie. I like what it does. The characters... A lot of them have arcs. The comedy hits. There's progression at all. Ryan O'Connor is great in this movie. Owen Shaw is a strong villain. Not the best villain, but that's okay because the movie's pretty solid. It ends up being my favorite of the series so far.
I got family.
So Paul Walker passed away during the filming process. They did a really good job, they being James Wan and the producers, did a really good job of taking what they shot of the movie, the half that they shot, and reformatting what was there and rewriting the other half to bridge the gap and send off his character in a powerful way. They did a decent job. I'm just going to address that real quick off the top. The real-life aspects, they did a great job on. This is a strong one. This is actually a really good one. I love the stunts. I think they're so fun. That's something else that like the series does that a lot of other series won't do as much, which are real practical stunts. You saw that in 5, where they created this cart for the safe to someone to drive around in, so it looked like the safe was driving. Like, that's real. They didn't probably did CGI a lot of it, but a lot of those shots are actual in-camera shots, which is so interesting. The series does this a lot. This one involves hacking and espionage and all kinds of weird shit. This one introduces Ramsey. I want to talk about Ramsey a little bit because she is, according to the series, the world's greatest hacker ever. She is a 25-year-old supermodel, and she created a piece of software called God's Eye, which can detect and scan every camera and microphone in the world at the same time, real time, and just record everything all the time and give whoever uses it ultimate intel and power. There's one line where they lampshade it. Tyrese Gibson, of course, is like, "Man, hackers don't look like that. That's crazy. She could hack me all day long." Whatever the fuck. I don't know. I don't care. This is the Fast series. Like, they do some really weird, cringe, vaguely sexist shit, and they're just like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll just write a character calling it out once and not do anything with it, and that's fine." That's a multi-million-dollar blockbuster that they're doing that cheap, annoying writing trick on. I don't know if it's the end of this one or Fast 8, where Tyrese and Luda, their characters, their whole point is that both of the characters want to date this girl. And there's a scene where they're like, "Oh, hey, we want to get with you. Would you pick him or me?"
Is it gonna be Revenge of the Nerds or The Dark Knight?
And she's like, "So what's my last name?"
When you guys figure it out, then I guess you can let me know.
It's gonna be Parker. That's all that really matters.
Maybe if you think about that, maybe we could get together. And they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be Parker pretty soon." The series never actually reveals her last name, so the series doesn't give a shit about her last name. The writers don't give a shit about her last name. They would have written a fucking last name. The directors, the producers, they don't give a... The people who created this character don't give a shit about the character enough. So, yeah, it's a fun, haha, fuck you, boys, sexy comment because I'm girl power. But in the context of the Fast series, nobody involved in the Fast and Furious movies to this day, including Fast X, have addressed her last name. Ever. She's just Ramsey. So, yeah, she's calling out those two characters for being horny pigs, but what are the producers of the movie? So that's how I see it, where it's like, okay, yeah, you're neither having your cake nor eating it too. You're doing neither of the two things you're trying to do with that scene. And it's more indicative of, I don't know, how the series treats women that aren't Jordana Brewster and Michelle Rodriguez. Like, every other female in the series is, like, shaking their butts. Every street racing scene has, like, butts out. Oh, shaky butts. Oh, I'm twerking with my butts. Oh, I'm getting all the butts out. The butts. We got to shake with the butts. And then the cars pull up, and Dom is, like, next to the villain, and they're like, "We're going to race. It's going to be crazy." And there's just a low shot of a butt as the lady walks up, and she's like, "This is wherever we are, baby.
This is London, baby. It's El Rio de Janeiro, baby.
Time to race." And they throw the flag into the big butt, and they do the shake, and all the girls come out after the cars are... Like, it's very, very, very male fantasy. Very, very lifestyle porn. You know what I mean? Or literal porn, depending on view. That's always been frustrating, but the same level of frustrating that the believability of the stunts are, where it's like, okay, you either got to accept this or you can't really watch the series. Because if this bothers you, it's in every single one, and it's not going anywhere. It'll never be fixed. So if this isn't for you, the series isn't for you. So you gotta just move on. I'm not defending it. It's a bad thing. I wish it weren't here, but oh well. Furious 7, of course, has my boy Tony Ya, who's known only as the Protector in my house. Holy shit, fucking love that guy. James Wan's action directing, I think it's the second best action like fist combat action is what I'm talking about. It's the second best in the series. I think Fast X has the best hand-to-hand stuff in the series. James Wan, he did a really good job of choreographing the fight scene between Tony Ya and Paul Walker's character. And I really appreciate the moves that they do, the fact that Muay Thai is prevalent, the fact that Tony Ya at like 40-something can move that fast and be that cool. Yeah, he really can. He's fucking awesome. But I feel like in the editing room somewhere, it was either mistranslated or whatever, and there are just a hair too many cuts in those scenes. And I feel like if you had let the action breathe and actually shown what these two are doing, not necessarily like a big oneer, like it doesn't have to be like a John Wick or anything like that, but like show enough of like maybe after 2 or 3 moves, you don't cut. you keep showing the rest of the movie. Like, I don't know. Hobbs is back. He's a really consistent part of the franchise. I love, like I mentioned earlier, the bromance, the frenemy type relationship with him and Dom, which gets challenged in 8. We'll talk about 8, why 8 is not as good as 5, 6, and 7. I love all these scenes with The Rock walking around in like a sleeveless Under Armour shirt, and all I can think is like, how the fuck did you put that on? Did they like sew the shirt into existence while you were just standing there naked so that you could have a shirt on? Like, how do you there's no way you wake up every day and just stretch the shirt out this wide to put it around your fucking pecs. And they're like 10 sizes too small, which is an extra large. Deckard Shaw, I mentioned him earlier, he is an excellent villain. He is the second best villain right behind Fast X's Jason Momoa. We'll get there. Deckard Shaw is so fun to watch. He's such a charismatic presence. And not charisma like, oh, I'm so charming, but charisma in the sense that he is a force of nature with personality. And anytime he's on screen, just like kind of one-upping the people around him, screwing over the crew, doing these crazy karate kicks that like only Tony Jaa himself could ever conjure as well. Like, Jason Statham is a beast. He's awesome, man. And seeing him interact with the crew as friend or enemy, because he's only enemy in this film, is so fun. I think he's an excellent characterization. He's the better of the two Shaws. It's weird that so many people after falling out of the plane in F6 are just alive now. Giselle, Owen Shaw. Like, they fell out of a fucking plane. How? Furious 7, much like Fast and Furious 4, is a 4 out of 10. Furious 7 is a 7 out of 10. Okay, now we're getting out of the peak. We're getting out of the big 3 that I love, 5, 6, and 7. 8 is fine. It's okay. It's got enough of what made 5, 6, and 7 so great. It's got the flavor, it's got the comedy, it's got the fun, it's got the action. It's got just enough ridiculousness where, like, okay, there's no fucking way that physics would allow that to happen, but it's fun to watch. It's fine. But the writing is so stupid. Like, okay, so the premise is that Dom betrayed La Familia, and that's because they're holding his son with Elena hostage, but they just execute her off screen because they're going to bring her back one day, I'm calling it. The villain is Charlize Theron, Cypher, which they know, the writers and producers know that they're going to bring her back for like 10 more movies, so they don't even try and kill her. You know, a lot of the other villains in the series, they like fake kill, like Owen Shaw fell out of the fucking plane, so therefore he's totally fine, just in a cast for one movie, and then he's back all healthy. And then the same thing's gonna happen with Giselle, who fell out of the fucking plane and now she's fine 2 movies later. But like, either way, so Cypher is here, kind of no resolution to her evil plot by the end of it. She's kind of back doing her thing anyway, and that's whatever. Her master plan is to manipulate Dom via holding his kid hostage to acquire these nuclear codes to blow up the world. I don't know. She's like a cartoon character. She's not a real person. She's like literally like a comic book villain. What I definitely see the Fast and Furious writers doing with this series is trying to make villains that are fun and charismatic. And that is epitomized in Jason Momoa in Fast X, which we'll get to very soon. The reason that they're doing this is because Dom is such a boring, flat fucking character. And he was interesting in Fast 1 when, again, I mentioned that he's great at acting in Fast 1. I think the writing in Fast 1 is questionable, but at least his characterization was interesting to watch. After that point, he's never interesting again. I don't know what happened between the end of Fast 1 and Fast 5 and onward with Vin Diesel, or Fast 4 even, but he's become this, like, void of charisma and emotion guy who only talks like this. And for some reason, he's like the lead of the movies. He's carrying the movie on his shoulders, and my God, make any other member of the crew the main guy. Now, I know, Paul Walker, you lost him. I get that completely, sure. But here's the thing. You have a whole Fast and Furious crew. Any other member of that Fast and Furious crew would be more interesting to watch than Dominic Toretto. Any of them. Any. Ludicrous, for Christ's sake. It's just random fucking mechanic who gets wrapped up into this entire world of espionage and stunt racing. That's a character arc. There's more to him. He talks in more than one octave. Like, I'm not saying he should be the protagonist, but my point is any of them would be more interesting as a main character of the series post Paul Walker than Vin Diesel. I think he's just so flat. And the reason that the Fast series has made these crazy, kooky villains with all these really crazy, accents and attire and personalities, and they're all up in your face. Mr. Nobody, not really a direct villain, but he's there. Kurt Russell's doing his crazy thing. He's coming in. He's like, you're doing this. I'm doing that. I'm going to do that for you. There's this whole, every single villain is like this absurdist person because the character who's the protagonist is so fucking boring that they have to compensate and put all the charisma into the villain. And this works so well in Fast X because you have the craziest, most absurd villain in Dante. Fucking love Dante. He's so fun to watch. He's just, while the Fast crew is doing that thing, he's like antagonizing them on the fucking, not a cell phone, it's fucking like 1960s cell phone. He's on this little thing. It's so fucking funny. It's great. It's like the best part. You really need someone to like add color commentary during these like stock action scenes that they just keep doing. It's fun stuff. It's genuinely fun to watch. Fast 8, Cypher is like the beginning of that journey where like they're starting to go a little bit crazier and hammier with the villain characters. Because, Deckard Shaw was pretty fun to watch, but he's pretty serious. Cypher is just like, a mustache twirling, the Bond villain, the hell's his name? Fucking Spectre, him. Blofeld. She's like a Blofeld, basically. Her master plan, besides blowing up the whole world with nuclear warheads, at one point is to control all the smart cars in the world and like destroy the team that way. There's a line in Fast 9, which is right after this film. Context of Fast 9 is that she hired Jacob Toretto to, Jacob being Dom's long-lost brother that they never mentioned ever, and she hired him to do similar jobs as she forced Dom to do in 8. And she fucking mentions, man, I should have hired you from the start. You're way more effective. I should never have forced Dom into doing that thing to fight his family because I could blow up his kid at any point because you're just way easier. And I'm like, yeah, fucking hire anybody. Hire literally one person with like a paycheck, not with blackmail. Pay like a normal fucking like arms dealer mercenary guy to do your bidding. Hire an assassin and go fight the Fast crew if you want or whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't give a shit. Like, forcing Dom to do that is the most contrived, stupid thing in the world because Dom hands out the family word like candy to anybody, so threatening his child and not even wife, because he's dating Letty, or married to Letty at that point, threatening them isn't even the biggest threat you could do to him because you would imagine that he cares more about Letty than he does about Elena. Because Letty's like is ride or die. What was Cypher's plan? Why did Cypher have that plan? Why did she have no other plan? Is there no simpler plan to do anything that she was trying to do? To hack into a submarine? Yeah, it's part of the story. Whatever. Fast 8 has fun action. It's got a great third act because the rock gets out of it. There's like a tank missile, like a submarine missile basically, and it's sliding across the ice, and the rock gets out, and he just pushes it at a car, and it blows up. Funny. So, Foot 8 is probably 5 or 6 out of 10. I'll settle in 6. I'll just call it 6, call it a day. But it could have been a lot better, and the writing and the story is so dumb. Fast 9 is really dumb. It's a bad movie. There are scenes where, like you see in the trailer, where he drives the car off the bridge cliff, and there's like the big rope, and he like jungle swings the car. He turns the wheel, and the wheel turns like this in the air to like hook into the rope so that the car can swing like a pendulum. They gotta outdo themselves, obviously, so they just get weirder and stupider, and whatever. It is what it is. So much of this movie is just completely void of fun because the villain this time, even though Cypher's back, is really Jacob Toretto for most of it. And he's just bland. Of course he's fucking Dom's brother because they're both fucking bland Torettos. And there's a scene where they fist fight, and I'm like, I don't care. Do the producers think that I care about Vin Diesel and John Cena doing this big stunt fight? Like, no. It was mildly interesting when it was The Rock, because they're throwing each other through, like, plywood and shit. It's fucking funny. But here it's just, like, I feel like this is the selling point, and it's like, no, that's not getting me. Not getting me. The big third act thing is that they go to space, except they don't go to, like, literally only Ludacris and Tyrese go to space, and it's in a car rocket. Now, because Justin Lin came back to the series, he made a Tokyo Drift reunion, Lucas Black, along with the guy from Warrior and Bow Wow. So there's them three. That's adorable. But how and why, from Furious 7, when Dom last met Lucas Black, did he go 2 movies later to being like not just a rocket scientist, but like a rocket scientist specifically designing a car rocket to go to space in, with duct tape being a viable solution? It's one thing when the series like just throws believability out the window. That's one element of the series. I get that completely. That's what they do. But it's another when the characterizations actually don't track. Like, I get that you want a Tokyo Drift reunion. Me too. You should follow up more on that. It's part of the series. They never address it. But is this the way to do it? Like, why not call them in for a heist? Why not have called them in for the fucking heist in Fast 5? Whatever. So, or 7, because 5 would have been before. Not important. I just feel like those characters were really underutilized and have been for like 5 movies straight. Now, granted, again, 4, 5, and 6 are before 3. I understand that. But now post 6, now 7 and on, this is such a weird number game. I feel like at least Lucas Black, the protagonist of Tokyo Drift, should at least be part of the series. Yeah, Han is great. I love Han. I love him to death. He's very funny. But Lucas Black deserves his day in the sun here. So the third act, which I imagined when they went to space that like Dom Toretto in his fucking cruiser would just zoom up into the thing with the technology and you'd be like, family, and drive through a satellite. But no, it's them two, so they can blow up the satellite and do comedy together, and everyone else is on the ground doing normal Fast and Furious stunts. I think F9 is really, they really dropped the ball. Like, that could have been a great movie. You have the ingredients for a great movie there. Aside from weird comedy, Tyrese and Luda don't have anything to do. Oh, and here's the worst part. Tyrese Gibson goes through this arc, right? This is the subplot where Tyrese is like surrounded by guys with AK-47s, just surrounded. And Tyrese just has an AK. And they're all firing at Tyrese, and Tyrese just shoots all of them, like kind of spray and praying, and Tyrese wins, and they're all dead, and he's fine. And this is addressed in the film as Tyrese saying like, hey, Ludacris, hey, Tej, these are bullet holes in my thing. What's going on? Are we invincible? We've won so many impossible situations. Can we not be harmed? So I'm like, okay, Hobbs and Shaw introduced superpowers to the Fast and Furious series. So are they going to say that Tyrese has the strength serum that Idris Elba had in Hobbs and Shaw? Is that what they're going to do? That actually would explain why he's so fucking lucky all the time, and all these people are. But no.
We're not invincible. We've probably just been lucky this whole time.
It's so stupid. The writers specifically went out of their way to lampshade it. They keep doing this. And they address the fact that it makes no fucking sense. Which, okay, if you're gonna do that, build in a viable reason why that's the case. And they didn't. It would have been better had they not addressed it at all like they've been doing. Because addressing it to that effect with no payoff and no logic is just not worth it. At this point, it just takes you out of the movie. So anyway, they drive a car through a satellite and the movie ends or whatever. It's not important. Maybe 5 out of 10? 5 out of 10. Let's just say 5 and call it a day. I like it better than Fast and Furious 4. Okay, before Fast X, let's talk about the one that I just skipped over, which is Hobbs and Shaw. I'm just going to address it really quickly here. It's just a buddy action comedy movie. And yet, it's better than most of the Fast and Furious movies. Like, it's... Okay, so removing Vin Diesel, the boring version of Vin Diesel from the series, I criticized the series in part 2 and 3 for not having Dominic Toretto in it, because Dominic Toretto in Fast 1 was actually an engaging character. This series 4 and beyond that have Vin Diesel as the main character, Vin Diesel is the worst part about them because he's so bland and boring that taking him out of it, instead putting a charismatic duo like Deckard Shaw and Luke Hobbs, The Rock and Statham together, where they just insult each other the whole time, that's genuinely engaging to watch, at least for me anyway, where you just know that these two are having a blast. There's a reason they spun them off. Besides the feud that The Rock had with Vin Diesel, there's a reason that the producers were like, okay, this is actually a viable pairing. This is actually a duo that could work well together and ride a franchise, at least one movie, on their backs. This is a fun time. I love the cameos. I love Kevin Hart's role. I love Ryan Reynolds. We got the same tattoo. That's funny. It hits so well. Hobbs and Shaw is like one of the best of the series, and it's not even that great. This might sound insane, but 7 for Hobbs and Shaw. I almost want to say 8. It is almost my favorite. So I don't know why it's the hip, relevant thing to release half a movie in theaters and expect that that's okay, and then make the audience potentially wait a year longer or never for the next one, because Fast X is bombing pretty hard, so whatever. Here we are at Fast X, the inconclusive hunk of junk that's the latest in the series. I really went in with, like, some kind of expectations that, like, okay, maybe, at least they could resolve some of the dangling threads from the series already. And it looks a lot like Fast X is just a pilot episode to whatever the hell their idea of a finale is. They don't substantially address anything prior that I was actually interested in. Giselle's back. They don't explain how or why. I'm sure they're just going to have a flashback where she's in a hospital for 6 months and then is fine again. Like, just like Owen Shaw, right? Who cares? You fell off a fucking plane is not enough for you. There's this really dumb moment towards the end of Fast X where John Cena... Now, Jacob Toretto has been bonding as a subplot with Dom's son, right? The whole point of that subplot was to make us, the audience, kind of care about him when he does a big sacrifice. But what have we seen in every single Fast and Furious death so far? Every single time that a prominent named big shot actor or actress, quote, quote, dies in the series, every time the character does, guess what? They come back. And they always come back in the most contrived, stupid way. So for Owen Shaw, it was, oh yeah, I'm in like a full body cast because I fell out of a plane. For Letty, it was, oh, the car blew up and I got amnesia, but now I'm fine 1 movie later. And for Han, it was, oh yeah, it was a specific targeted attack by Deckard Shaw as revenge, which is like all the villain's motivations. But Mr. Nobody actually did that on purpose so that he could go undercover to... I already went down that road. Here we are with Jacob Toretto, who is like, Dom, stepping out of your shadow, finally. Now we're gonna be the Fast X together, and he fucking drives his car and blows up on purpose. And as he's, like, dangling in the air, he, like, grabs his Toretto necklace, because the Torettos have to have the same necklace, and he's like, because he has faith. That's another big thing, too. I really feel like Vin Diesel... I don't know if it's him or somebody in the writer's room is just like, oh yeah, make sure that family and faith are number 1. Dante is driving the 2 trucks remotely into Dom on top of Hoover Dam or wherever that dam is. Dante's like, I'm fucking you up. Haha, fuck you, I win. And Dom's like, forgot one thing, you didn't take my car. But before he says that, his son turns to his dad and says, Dad, I have faith. Now... It's such a non-human thing to say. It's such a non-child thing to say. In that moment, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. What faith are you talking about? There's no mention of, like, religion or anything in the Fast saga, I don't think. Not importantly enough where it's relevant to say it right there and then. All I can think about with Fast X are problems and plot holes, compounded with the fact that they do deliver on the stunts. I mean, that opening stunt... with the circle bomb going down towards the Vatican. Did it make sense? No. Could cars feasibly stop that? No. Did watching that scene and watch the bomb directly guide itself all the way to the Vatican, even though it hit like 100 different things along the way, stopped, blew up, whatever, then kept going? Did that make any lick of sense whatsoever? Absolutely not. But was it fun to watch? Yeah. And that's what Fast has always gotten away with, is like absurdity in this mundane setting and context, and usually an international location, where they can drag on this chase or this espionage or this spy thing for like 10, 15, even 20 minutes of screen time. And so long as it's interesting to watch, they can just ride it. No pun intended, because they're riding cars, but like they can just ride the coattails of whatever oddly convoluted Rube Goldberg fucking invention, like setting and whatever. They got a lot of shit going on. It's really fun. It's equal parts stupid and fun. It's just frustrating because you have competing film franchises that do big, crazy, dumb action with a good story too. Like a lot of them, it's like a cliche at this point, but a lot of the MCU stuff, maybe not so much anymore, but sometimes recently, like they do, like No Way Home. That was a movie, to compare it with Fast X, because they're in similar positions, that's a movie that is poised at the end of a long-running series, of which there's a lot of different like installments that explore different corners of this universe and this world, because it's a multiverse at that point. And that one converges a lot of the plot lines and resolves old character arcs that never got resolved, like Amazing 2 with Andrew Garfield. Fast X does like 0% of that. Like none of that. There's not one. Like Tej Parker, I mentioned he had a really cool arc. He started as like this nobody car mechanic. He helps with the heist and switches his lifestyle. But then, I didn't even mention this, but after he gets the heist money, him and Roman are comparing what they've done. And Roman Pierce is like in fresh suits. He's got like women. He's got like cars. He's like, I'm living my life. And Tej is still doing his auto mechanic thing. But the twist, of course, is that he also has one of those incredibly rare cars in the world. It's a really funny scene. And I just thought, like, okay, what a cool way to make me laugh, but also tell me more about this character and how he acts and what he does. And I feel like maybe after that point in the whole series, they don't go back to establishing what these characters could be doing outside of Dom's weird world. Like, I feel like they don't have lives. I would really like to see that more explored. And Fast X does none of that. And it's, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Fast X. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I'm not wrapping up the conversation, but I'm kind of getting there because it's a movie of two worlds, really. You know what? Fuck it. 4 out of 10 because of the ending. The ending was total shit. Do you really think that John Cena's dead? Because now I'm so conditioned in the Fast and Furious series that when a big name character and actor dies, that they're just going to come back 2 movies later. I mean, it's kind of a sore subject, but like, okay, Paul Walker literally died, and his character was see you again, drive away, and then they bring him back, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if this series has a direction. It did. It was riding so well with 5, 6, and 7, and even 8 a little bit, and it kind of went down in 9, and now Fast X is like a really mixed bag. It's so frustrating because I've invested 11 movies of my life staring at this stupid screen and watching this series to have maybe like 2 or 3 plot lines pay off in some meaningful way. And everything else is just left dangling or ignored or unimportant anymore. I have very mixed emotions. Like, this series is like pretending that it's a series, and it's really kind of not. It's a collection of spin-offs that don't satisfyingly converge. The other big thing that's really bugging me about this series, now that I've watched all of them, what am I describing? Which film? So it opens with Dominic Toretto and insert hot woman here, living an okay-ish life after the events of the last one, but government happens. Oh no, Dom, we need you. Well, Dom, here's the thing. It's this specific gimmick. Oh, I gotta assemble the team. He assembles the team, and the team gets assembled. And then Tej and Roman have like an insult contest for 5 minutes where Roman is like, haha, I'm crazy and confident and a little arrogant. And then Tej is like, man, you're stupid and ugly. And then Roman's like, man, why you gotta be like that, man? That really hurt my feelings. And then it cuts. But here comes the heist. It's a really big deal. And we're going to drive cars in such a way that if anybody drove those cars that way, they would instantly die, but we're not going to. And we're going to drive it off cliffs. We're going to drive it into buildings. We're going to drive it into other cars, and our cars are fine while their cars crumple. Finally, after doing the big thing and saying family 100 times, we get the money, we blow up the bad guy until the next one. There's a fake death. There's a death that's resolved the next movie by the post-credits scene even. And then the end of the movie is a barbecue that Vin Diesel is hosting, and he's like, we're all here, and everyone who was a supporting character in the movie is now at the barbecue, including enemies. They're stuck in this weird formulaic loop. And to Fast X's credit, they start to break that loop, but I think that's really only because it's the first half of what I'm describing. It's, oh, we're living a life, oh, there's a setup, oh, there's an agency. Now they're just called Agency, which is comedic gold. Oh, now they're getting involved. Oh, we got to get in there. I got to call the team, and the team's here. Comedic. Oh, Tej and Roman back and forth all day long. But now we got a cliffhanger. We're going to dangle what happens. So there's no barbecue yet. So the next one is going to pick up where this one left off, continue everything. Dom and his son are going to swim to safety because the dam blew up and it's water. So I think they'll be fine. Or maybe a helicopter swoops in. I don't know. I don't give a shit. And then at the end of that one is the barbecue. Because you know a barbecue's coming. And you know CGI Paul Walker is going to be at that barbecue. God damn it. I might like Hobbs and Shaw better than Fast 6. Hobbs and Shaw might be the best one. I'm not even making that up. Like, it... I think a big reason that Fast 6 is my favorite, maybe, is in Fast 6, it's the only one where it's genuinely like a day in the life for Dom's crew. Because Fast 5 is where the crew happens, right? Where he meets everybody and calls them family immediately. And Fast 7 and 8 is where they get into bigger, important world-ending events. And Fast 6 is also has some pretty high stakes, but it's just a genuinely solid movie through and through. It's just the right level of fun. It's perfect. And it's a 7 out of 10, and it's the peak of the series. So there you have it. I'll be back with Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Nobody when that comes out, and then Fast 11 after that. I'm really looking forward to only the first one.